it. That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to High School to Higher Ed, a father-daughter perspective, a special Pulse Check mini-series brought to you by Enrollify. I'm Kevin Cavanaugh, an enrollment management professional for nearly 30 years.
And I'm Emma Cavanaugh, his daughter, a 10th grader in the middle of high school. This series is about seeing the college admissions process through a different perspective, mine. We'll explore how young people are perceiving college and the messages we're getting from counselors, family, and colleges themselves. By stepping into these early conversations, we hope to offer some real insights for enrollment managers and marketers. Things you can't find in the data, but in real, everyday moments. Let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome to High School to Higher Ed, a father-daughter perspective on the Enrollify network. So this is Season 3, Part 3, Emma's first open house. So really excited to talk about your perspective on an open house, especially since I feel like a million of these things in my career. So it was interesting for sure today. But that wasn't what we were originally going to be talking about tonight, right? What was this episode supposed to be all about?
We were planning to go to a college fair.
We did go to a college fair, didn't we not?
We did go to a college fair, but the colleges weren't at the college fair because the college fair was canceled and no one updated their website. So they all said that they were still attending this college fair, but there wasn't one to be gone to.
Yeah, we went to a local high school that wasn't your high school, but it was a one town over from where we live, and they were having a college fair. And it was on their website. It was on the website of some of the colleges that were planning on being there, promoting it to their. And the only reason we know that is that when we did a Google search for it, some of the colleges came up on the Google search for this particular high school. So me and Mom, we roll in, the parking lot's busy. It was hard to find a spot. I was like, oh man, it's a busy event. And then we roll in and there's a bunch of little kids dressed up as pilgrims and Indians or something, or some
sort of back in the day.
Yeah. Like a Downton
play.
Yeah. So anyway, and we saw an adult and we said, hey, we're here for the college fair. And they're like, I don't think there's a college fair tonight. And then they looked into it and there was a competing college fair. And then as I looked it up, I realized that we're in North Jersey, but it was the same night as the Atlantic City NACAC College Fair, which is a big college fair. So I guess there was too much of a conflict on the schedule and a lot of the colleges didn't sign up. And so the high school just decided to cancel it.
But then I got to go to an open house.
Right. So we called an audible. Yeah, we called an audible. And we realized that one of the colleges that we've talked about but never been to was having an open house this weekend. So we said, pack up the car, take a road trip.
It wasn't too far.
No, it was like an hour and a half away. It wasn't too bad of a drive. So before we talk about the open house itself, as we were thinking about going to an open house or on our drive to an open house, I said, Emma, what is an open house? And what was your response?
I wasn't really sure.
Yeah.
I knew that it was a big event at the college and that the students were involved, but beyond that, I didn't really know what people do or have planned there.
Yeah. So you had no idea. And you had never been to any of my colleges during an open house day. So you had no idea. So we won't mention.
I know you mentioned balloons, so I just figured that there was balloons there.
Yeah. So actually, this was a little. Now that I think about it, this was a little light on balloons. I think, right?
I saw some balloons.
There were some, but I've seen balloon arches. I've seen.
Wow.
Actually, there was. Didn't they spell out the school's initials in balloons?
They did with the school's mascot.
Yeah. Right. So you could take pictures in the gym there. Yeah. So I take that back. But it wasn't like heavy balloonage. It was like modest balloonage. So right off the bat, we do an hour and a half drive. We get to this campus, get a little twisted around trying to find the right entrance, but some student ambassadors point us in the right direction. We get to the main entrance and that was your first open house experience, right? So why don't you tell everybody what your first open house right out of the gate, we hadn't even gotten out of the car yet, experience was?
So we were pulling into the main entrance, and it was just like one car in front of the other. So it was one line of cars pulling in, and the school had their big sign that said the school's name on it. That was stone, or I think it was stone. And
Yeah.
all of the student ambassadors were, or some of them, were on top of the sign, screaming, pointing at cars, screaming up and down the car line that people were waiting to get into the parking garage. And I did not like that.
But to be clear, screaming enthusiastically, like
Yeah, yeah,
welcoming.
yeah.
Yeah, they
They
weren't
were very
like,
enthusiastic.
yeah.
But
They weren't yelling at us for being on their campus.
I was just it's strange.
You were mortified. So
It
I'm
was
used to.
uncomfortable.
No, I mean, I've had student ambassadors do this kind of thing too, where they pump up the crowd. They're really welcoming, sometimes pom poms, sometimes balloons, whatever, good energy to start the day. But I felt the heat coming off of me to my right because this was a very slow moving line. So this wasn't something that you zip
I was
through.
just stuck there, and they were pointing at all the cars, trying to get everyone excited, and I was just like falling back into my chair.
Yeah, you were getting redder and redder and redder, and you're like, "What the hell is happening?" Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting experience.
Yeah. To the negative. You're like, you don't want to see that in another open house, right?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I think it was excessive, especially because it was kind of early in the morning too.
Yeah. 9 o'clock in the morning getting yelled at by a bunch of strangers is not as welcoming as you would like it to be. But some people love that stuff. So, to each their own.
Yes.
We had some free time when we got to the campus, right? So we did the whole check-in, the whole 9 yards.
We got a bag.
Yeah, with a bunch of printed material, or not like gifts or anything like that, but right, it was.
But there was like a sticker in there.
Yeah. Okay. Sticker, coupon to the bookstore. What did you think of the feel of the campus itself? We had some free time and we did some walking around ourselves before things really kicked off. So, what were you surprised at on an open house day on a campus, and did it meet your expectations? This is the first big open house you'd ever been to.
I remember you talking about open houses being energetic, and we were walking around campus. Once we kind of got away from the main area where they were hosting the open house, there wasn't a lot going on, and so we were kind of just walking around the campus. Some of the students were out, but not a lot of students, and there wasn't really many ambassadors or other people around except for people that were on tours. So it was kind of quiet, and I was expecting it to be a lot more energetic and enthusiastic.
Yeah. I picked up on that too, but I picked up on that on my own campuses as well, because it's 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. College kids do not want to be up at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. So, but there's only so many times of a week or a weekend that you can have an open house. And you can't have an open house on a day that there's a lot of other activity taking place, because then there's no parking for the guests and there's not enough facilities to host everybody. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You kind of have to pick a day where the open house is really the only thing going on, so that the admissions office can be as hospitable as possible to as many guests, but at the same time, you're trying to bring the energy of the campus. So,
and I felt the energy when I got closer to the main, I guess, hotspot of where all of the events were happening. It was just once we kind of got to more towards the dorms and the quad is when it was kind of more quiet.
Mm-hmm. And what did you think of the ambassadors and some of the staff that you met just generally throughout the day? What was the vibe that you got from them?
They were very nice and helpful. We didn't really have much full conversations with them. We kind of just had brief interactions asking them for directions or anything like that.
Right.
But I didn't feel like they were nice and helpful. We just didn't have as much interaction in order to judge them.
Yeah, the tour guides or the student ambassadors on those kind of days tend to be almost like human
maps,
human maps, human right away, like pointing you in the right directions. But every student I met, every kid I met, and we met, I thought were super
Very nice.
hospitable, really nice. Even though it was 9 o'clock in the morning on their Sunday, they were, presenting the school really well. So I thought they did a good
And they were
job.
all dressed the same.
Right. So branding.
Which, as we mentioned in the last episode, is important, the way you dress.
Yep. They were all wearing their university sweatshirts that were provided to them by the admissions office. It's not like they were wearing their own university sweatshirt.
They were all wearing the same one.
They were all
wearing jeans, the same color jeans too.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't see any leggings or anything like that.
Oh, usually I like to see khaki, but I guess they just said go blue jeans. I didn't realize. What'd you think of the food?
It was fine. We didn't really. The potato chips were good for the lunch. I wasn't really there for the food, which that's a surprise. But
I told you there would be food as sort of knowing that Emma is all about food. I said there's going to be food there, and I thought it was a bit light, to be honest.
We didn't eat much.
No,
there weren't many options.
Yeah, check in. There was a couple continental donut-y kind of things, and then some wraps for lunch. I thought there'd be a little bit more hydration stations, or more places in sort of like the activities fair and other things where they'd give you an opportunity for like some treats or some water or soda. It was less than I would have thought, and
we also weren't there past lunchtime.
We got out of there.
I feel like people don't eat as much in the morning. That's snacky stuff.
Yeah. But okay, so one of the things you want to talk about us walking through the athletic facility, we kind of went off on our own, and I thought it was a nice facility. Yep, go ahead.
It was very nice. While we had free time, we were kind of just walking around, and I saw a room in one of the athletic facilities with a bunch of Peloton bikes, but you could only see like the wheels of them and the bottom, which had the logo, and there was some sort of frosted glass around the rest of what you would be able to see, so you could only really see the wheels and the ceiling. So given that my father is 6'5", he gave me a boost so that I could see inside the Peloton room. It was very cool. Yeah. But it was a very funny experience.
A little, you got to do what you got to do. So the frosted glass,
father-daughter chaos.
Yeah, right. And that's what we like to. That's the kind of energy we like to bring. So either we had to get on all fours to see under the frosted glass, or we had to figure out a solution to get over the frosted glass. And you seemed intrigued enough at seeing the Peloton bike. So I said, okay, here we go. So I just grabbed you. And
I felt like a cheerleader.
Good thing, I wasn't tossing you in the air, because you would have, cracked your head open. But I thought their facilities were great. I give them a lot of credit. They're one of the things that for me on those days, I think I told you as we were walking around, I would finish my days at open houses with like blisters on my feet. And maybe it was because I'm just a little neurotic, but even though I had great staff and there was the great facilities teams and great food services teams, I would still be walking around and I'd be, picking up pieces of garbage. I would be, making sure all the setups were done right. So, and I'm sure, and nobody at any of my open houses would realize that I did that as the VP, or that my director of admissions or AVPs were doing that. But we wanted our campus to come across as clean and well-maintained, and most of them were. So it wasn't contrived, but you're hosting people. That's your home. That's your house. That's what you're trying to, make them feel a part of. So to have garbage spilling out over garbage cans or having things laying around. So I thought, from looking at it from that perspective, I thought they did a really great job of having a really hospitable, really clean, well-maintained campus. I could tell it's well-maintained all the time, but I think particularly on a Sunday morning.
See any trash.
Yeah. And then think about it. Saturday night on a college campus is when people are having a lot of good times doing stuff. So there weren't beer cans laying around or solo cups laying around or whatever else they do on a college campus on a Saturday night. It was really clean and it was really respectful to all the guests, I thought. And I don't think anybody else would really pick up on that as the hard work that the admission staff does to make sure it looks like that. But I took notice of it.
And also, since it's fall, the leaves were falling, so it was very pretty.
Yeah, that's a great time to do an open house. So you had a good feel for sort of the look of it. It was the right time of year. It was a good vibe. We were offered a tour at one point, right? But
Yes.
you didn't want to take the tour. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
What's your take on a tour on an open house?
We went to take the tour, and then you asked if we were going to make it back in time for us to be able to go to the big 30-minute presentation that they had for a welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And they said probably not, and they told us that the tour was going to be 40 minutes. And I thought that was excessive, because I understand that their campus is pretty big, but I feel like an open house day, I feel like the tour shouldn't be so specific and showing all the dorms, and unless someone asks to see it. But I think they should highlight the main things and the main places that people would have classes, or the main areas that people eat, or anything like that. But I'm sure they went to the dorms and stuff like that, and I think that's excessive. And the students that are really interested in the school would come back to do a more in-depth tour.
Mm-hmm.
But on an open house day, there's so much going on, and there's so many different events to kind of figure out what you want to go to. Most people wouldn't think to ask if they would make it back in time for that main event, but since you're experienced, you knew. So I think the length of the tour was excessive, and so that's why I didn't want to do it, because I also didn't want to miss out on some of the other activities.
Yeah. You're being pretty polite right now. You were like, there's no way I'm taking a 45-minute tour. Like you were like, you shut that down real fast. So I said, okay, this is your thing. So yeah, I would agree with that generally, that and bear in mind, anybody that's listening, Emma's only in 10th grade. So this is very, very early on. So you don't really need to see their residence halls, by the way, not dorms, but you don't need to see the residence halls.
Sorry.
What's that?
Sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize to me. I'm just, teaching the.
What's the difference?
Dorms are really more like military barracks and are really more utilitarian, where residence halls are a place to live and learn in
It's a marketing ploy.
Oh, well, maybe that's fair enough. But, we in the business refer to them as residence halls. You can call them dorms if you choose. You don't need to see the residence halls or where you'd be living just yet, but you'd want to see that in your senior year as you're really narrowing schools down to really get a sense of where you'd be living.
The pop-up, I don't know what you would call that. It was kind of a fair, but there were areas where you could go and see kind of student life and the club options and the sports, and it was at pop-up. I don't know what you would call that.
I would call it like an activities fair or a student activities fair, and it's not all activity.
Gym.
Yeah. So to explain, it was every office that was student related, not academic in nature, but like the athletics or the student, the club sports or study abroad or residential life. Like every office or every club kind of thing had their own booth set up, and you can walk around and talk to representatives from those different offices.
And one of the booths was the freshman year, first year dorm residence halls. And I thought that was interesting, because I feel like a lot of schools highlight their upperclassmen residential halls, because I think that they're nicer, because the students are more senior to the freshmen. And so I think seeing the freshman dorms is important, because it's not always highlighted. Sometimes it's harder to find on schools' websites and stuff like that. But they actually had a poster board that had pictures of all of the different first year dorms, and then what they meant, or residence halls, and what because some of them were just for any first year student, and some of them were specific to certain things that they have at the school. So I thought it was interesting to be able to see all of them, and they all had pictures that they provided, and they explained that you live in a pod or you have your own room with a roommate or something like that, or if you had a bathroom shared with just one person or one other room, or if you had to share it with the whole floor. And so I thought that was interesting and helpful.
So rather than seeing them on the tour, just hearing about it from a residential life staff member gave you a sense of what the living environment would be like.
Yes.
Yeah. So then when we were done with, that part of it, which we were in there really early, so it wasn't a huge crowd, and we were able to actually go around to the different tables. We went into the large, like sort of like a gym with 600 chairs set up.
He did the math.
Right. Well, that's.
He didn't know what 15 times 20 was.
Well, I asked you to get your calculator out as I was counting, and then I realized that it was
And then I
more
did it in
rounded
my
math.
head, and he was like, "Oh,
Yeah, that's very good. That's good Common Core math right there.
you have other strengths."
I'm still trying to figure them out, but I appreciate that. So yeah, because again, I wanted to get a sense of the size of the crowd. So they had 600 chairs, white chairs set up, and then there were bleachers and people
They
were
were zip tied together.
zip tied. Yeah, so you couldn't move them. I hadn't seen that before. That was a nice touch. That's a good idea.
I didn't like it. I was too close to you.
Well, I give a lot of credit to the facilities, men and women who set up those
Yes.
chairs and zip tied them, because that's like a huge extra step to take. But I thought it was nicely done, nicely set up. And they showed they gave you an opportunity to do a QR code to show your own picture, like your own selfie on the big screens, which as you were waiting for, the ceremony, if you will, to start.
He wanted to do it, but I struck that down.
Yeah. Emma did not want to be on the big screen at this university's gymnasium. She's up for the antics sometimes.
I wonder why.
The Peloton room, but she's not up for being on the big screen. So you leaned over to me at one point. So, and I think this is an interesting point, and I don't know that I fully agree with you on it, but I want you to be able to say your piece. And I don't know the person's title, but it was basically the master of ceremonies, who I think was also in charge of enrollment and student experience or something like that.
I think he was a dean and a professor.
Yep. That was one of the academic people that presented, but the first person that started, the woman that presented, yes. She kind of started it all off and showed the video and all that kind of stuff. But then the president of the university was introduced. I thought he did a very nice job, but you had a particular observation that you leaned over and said to me. So I think it's worth talking about to our enrollment management and marketing people that are listening to the podcast.
Yes. I felt like he was talking more to the parents and he was talking to the students, which, especially as a student, I don't like, because it's not my parents' decision where I go to school necessarily. It's my decision. So I felt that he was directing some of the things he was saying more towards the parents. He was saying, like, they will be doing this if they come to this school, not you will be doing this if you come to this school. Or there was just different examples of him not addressing the students, but he wasn't specifically addressing the parents either. It was just obvious that the things that he was saying would have made a parent happy to know, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It wasn't giving the information that a student would want.
Yeah.
And he was also mumbling.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I thought he did a nice job about talking about community. Well, right. So I'm a parent, but I thought he did a nice job. As an enrollment person, very often the president calls us up a few days before open house and say, it depends on the president. Some presidents are going to go off and do whatever the presidents want to do. Other presidents are like, what are the things you want me to touch on? And I think he really zoned in on, you're going to get good academic experiences at a lot of places, but I want the students to see themselves here and to talk to our students and get a feel for our community and the culture of our campus. And I largely agree with him on that, because, and I'm overblowing this, but physics 101 and math 101 and history 101, kind of the same at every university, but each university has its own feel, its own campus culture, its own student population type. And I asked you this at the end of the day, do you see yourself here? Like, do you see yourself as one of these kids and on this campus? And I think that's the point that he was trying to get across is look beyond the buildings and look beyond, some of the stats and things like that, and take a look at the people, especially, the students and faculty that are here. But, as I thought back on it, he was talking a little bit higher. Maybe he was talking, more to the parents and over the students. That was astute of you to even pick up on that. But it's important as enrollment people that we hit these students and have them feel welcome. So the fact that you didn't really get the warm fuzzy vibe from the president was really interesting.
I just thought it was kind of like not upsetting, but it's just kind of irritating when you're the student and you're going to the university or the college to visit them to see if you're interested in going there, and it's your decision and you're the one that's going to have to go there for 4 years, and they're talking to your parents.
Yeah, well,
because I understand that the parents are going to be part of making that decision, but I think some parents are very invested and put a lot of pressure on their kids, and that's just like feeding into it more. Like, you want this decision to be mine, but I think some parents are very focused on their kid going to one school or doing one thing. And so I think by addressing parents and not addressing the students, it's kind of feeding into that a little bit.
You also, when another speaker, who again, I thought did a nice job talking about academics and a little over the top in terms of the energy and trying to be a little esoteric and using some big words like I just did. And, he was just sort of kind of a little over the top, but overall I thought did a really, really nice job. But at one point he said, we want open house to be enlightening. And you leaned over and you said, I'm not looking to be enlightened. I just want to learn more about the school.
I don't think that that's what the open houses are meant to be. They're meant to expose you to schools. And unless I go to a school and I fall in love with it when I go there, even that's not an enlightening experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
An enlightening experience has a high threshold of what can be considered an enlightening experience. And going to an open house at a college is not an enlightening experience.
Good for you, Emma. Good for you. I would generally agree. Although you might have. Go ahead.
I think it had some too much energy. I think it didn't really match the vibe. Because it was kind of like, it was exciting, but it was kind of like chill exciting the entire day.
Yeah.
And he was just like, rah!
Like he had a lot of coffee in the morning.
Yes, but it wasn't energizing. It was kind of just like he was energized.
Got it. So then after that, concluded, which I thought, again, they did a nice job, and they went over some admission statistics and the application process and all that, which I tend to stay away from. I don't hit the audience with, all the stats and, application deadlines and things. I think that's something you can put in a publication or otherwise. I generally at my open houses don't walk families through that because I recognize that they're not here to hear me. They're not at the open house to hear me. They're really there to see everybody else on the campus. So I try to keep my comments really short. But again, to each their own. But then you got to go to the academic building. And as we've talked before, you're more of like a liberal arts, political science, journalism, media. And I thought we saw like a 20-minute presentation.
It was not 20 minutes.
All right. It was a little longer than that. And they got us there late because it was really kind of far on the other end of campus. But, we don't have much time left in the podcast, but you want to give a quick overview of that sort of that presentation by the deans and other representatives from the School of Liberal Arts?
Yeah. So I didn't love the presentation. I felt like we went from one presentation to the next, and it was like just a long walk in between. And I think a lot of the stuff they highlighted were mentioned in other parts of the day. So we went to that, what do you call it, like an event, like a activities fair.
Yep.
And they had talking about their study abroad program, and they had a bunch of things that were again mentioned in the presentation, which I felt it made the presentation longer and it felt unnecessary because they were talking a lot about these things that had already been talked about at other points. And then they were also talking a lot about they were going into a lot of specifics about internships, but then right after the presentation, we went into another fair that was kind of the majors and getting to expose yourself to different majors that you're interested in, and you got to talk to professors. So I think that was also unnecessary because we were able to already talk and learn about our specific major, but then we had to sit through information that wasn't necessarily specific to us because it was liberal arts and science, which I feel like is so different at the same time because it was people that are interested in biology and people that are interested in political science.
Yeah.
So I think the presentation could have been shortened. Could have been shortened into just an overview of the school, and they talked about some sort of advisor that they have or advisor system, and they could have talked a little bit about that and then let us go talk to the professors, and I think that would have been enough because all of the information that they talked about and that made the presentation longer was information that was already highlighted in other points. And if people weren't interested in the study abroad program, then they wouldn't have gone to the study abroad pop-up or like booth.
In one respect, you try to reinforce themes throughout the day that, we're a school that does a lot of study abroad, or we are a school that is very student-centered, and you want to make sure that each session drives that home. So it's a reoccurring theme. But at the same time, I will say that there was some redundancy throughout the day where it got to be a bit much because we really wanted, and to be frank, this is just a practical piece of the reality of an open house. We wanted to get on the road. Like we wanted to be like done and leave. And we were hearing things that we had already heard 2 times before. And we were really antsy to get to the next thing, which would be the opportunity for you to actually meet with faculty members from the programs that you were most interested in and ask them about internships and ask them about study abroad opportunities specific to your majors, which I thought was a little bit more impactful for you, right?
Yeah, because I think you get to talk with faculty one-on-one and they're really passionate about the specific thing that you're also passionate about. The professors or the deans, I don't know who was really talking to us.
Faculty members, professors,
The faculty members, they were more on the science side, so they weren't as familiar with some of the things I was
those were the deans. Those were the deans that we met.
Yes. The deans were on more of the science side, and they couldn't really speak as much to what I was interested in, and we were also in a big presentation, so it wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't impactful to me, and it just felt unnecessary.
Yeah, but my point there was that you liked the opportunity to speak to.
Yes.
I'm kind of like moving on to the next thing. You really liked the opportunity to spend some time with the faculty, both in the political science program, and then you got to take like a small, like really intimate tour of the broadcasting facilities and the studios and all that kind of stuff.
I saw, as we were walking, we were literally about to leave. We had just gotten the lunch and we were about to get in the car or walk towards the car. And I saw the chairs in a studio and they looked kind of like news anchor, sports anchor chairs. And it was in a window on the bottom of the floor.
Yeah, we were on the second floor. You were looking down to the first floor.
Yeah. I was looking into it. And so as we were walking out, we just decided, let's see if we can go see it. And there were actually people there and they were waiting for people that wanted to see the studio. So we got a personal tour of the control room and the studios that they have and all the equipment that they have.
Yeah. I will say, and as a dad, this sort of idea of helping you figure out what you want to do and what excites you, when you peeked into the window from the second floor, when you saw like the studio lighting and the studio chairs set up and the anchor desk and all the cameras and everything, you kind of lit up and you said, ooh. And so
I was like, I want to see that.
And so it wasn't clear how to get to it from the second floor down to the first floor, but we kind of maneuvered
figured
around. We figured it out. And there were people that like they were waiting all day for just us to show up. Hey, let me show you. This is the stuff that
And
we
they were
use.
really interested in what they were talking about. And because they were telling us about the equipment, and then they were telling us that this is the equipment that you'll see in actual newsrooms and control rooms. And I just thought that that was really cool. And
Yeah.
they were showing us all the things. And it
Their
was really-
passion for broadcasting and TV and media
Mhm.
really came across. And
Yeah.
and they were so hospitable. Like we were just
Yeah.
the two of us and they were taking us around. It was great. So
It was there were 2 people with us, and there's 2 of us, so we were kind of on our own one-on-one tour.
yeah, oh, that's great. That's sometimes that's the most intimate way of learning about a place is to
Mhm.
meet individual people like that. So thank you to them.
Yes.
So overall, as we wrap this up, you think this is going to be the first of many open houses, and we took notes because I've told you they all kind of blend together and you forget. But overall, decent experience. You had a good experience.
It was fun. I enjoyed doing it with you.
Oh, I enjoy doing it with you too. I look forward to doing all of these. I love you a lot. What do you say we wrap up season 3? Thank everybody for being along this journey. Next half season, we'll try to do a college fair, and we've got another few things that we're going to be doing that we're going to
Some exciting stuff.
Some exciting stuff coming up, like road trips. Really good stuff. So stay tuned.
We'll have to tune in to see.
Thanks to all of our listeners. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And what do you say we make like a tree and get out of here?
Let's make like a tree and leave, you idiot.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.